Hey Yanking, you ever get tired of your own voice? Well, I don't. This week's episode has the hilarious Michael Konrath. We talk about sketch, starting stand-up, hitting mics, and comedy styles. I probably learned a lot more from him than he did from me, but that's just how it goes, all the time. The live version of The Anchor Show will be taking off the month of December, but we will be back in 2020. Friday, January 24th, 9:30, featuring Gina Bloom, a hilarious comic as seen on Comedy Central. This episode is brought to you by Rich Babies. They take care of themselves.
Are you in the mood for a yank tonight? Welcome to this week's Yankcast.
So here we are at the Yankcast, baby! Here with Michael Konrath.
Hello.
Hello. Michael Konrath is one of my good friends in comedy. He did Yanker, my show, very early on, and how else would you describe yourself?
I'm a stand-up comedian. Been doing it, just got a year in, like 2 weeks ago. Been doing sketch for a few years before that, but just focusing on stand-up right now. I was able, got to do your show, a couple other people's shows that I've had the pleasure of meeting over the last year. Just having a good time with stand-up comedy. Wow. I need to rehearse some credits. Okay, cool.
Having fun, right? That's like what it's about at first.
Yeah, definitely. What it's about at first. As opposed to just like getting paid, getting road work, becoming a real stand-up comedian. Yeah, that's what you mean. Yeah, I mean, no, it is fun, but I think that's important when you're starting out. Otherwise, you won't keep doing it. Yeah.
I think you have to hopefully have fun at every sense, but I don't know, it seems like maybe idealistic.
For sure. Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely the most difficult thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
But it's also the most rewarding thing that I've done.
What about sketch stuff? You said you were doing sketch stuff before. What
kind
of sketch stuff were you doing before?
I had an indie sketch team called Elefante Elegante. Just performed live at the Clubhouse and the Inner Sanctum with some writers I met at UCB, Jupiter Bodo, Will Haza, a few other people, and we did that for about a year and a half or 2 years, and then everybody kind of went their separate ways, and was trying to figure out, well, am I going to do that again, or focus on something else? And I think it was just kind of didn't really like meetings that much. It was very difficult getting everyone together. And I think honestly, I've always enjoyed stand-up more. It's that's what I watch more than sketch comedy. But I was always just the most afraid of it. So I was kind of sketch is a nice way to dip my toe into that. I'm writing something, I'm putting it up. But I do enjoy stand-up a lot more because you can iterate on something and perform a lot more than we could with sketch. I mean, maybe some other sketch teams are faster at writing or something like that, but it would be we'd lock down a performance once a month or something like that, and put all of our time and energy into getting that one thing. And it's I don't know, stand-up you can perform every single night if you want. So.
Yeah. I think there is definitely a lot more control you have over stand-up.
For sure, yeah.
Than you have over anything else.
That's the other thing. It's just it's kind of like your soul a little bit. So putting any of that in somebody else's hands, or let's say it's your baby and it screws everyone else up because for some reason the sketch doesn't work, then you feel that responsibility. So it's nice just to be if something succeeds, that's me, that's exactly what I wanted to put out there. If something doesn't succeed, I can eat the failure myself.
Right. It's a little less daunting.
I actually I have a ton of respect for good indie sketch comedians, because it's they're able to do all of that without money. Do you know what I mean? They're able to deal with the politics of their own group or their theater or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're able to make everybody meet on time. They're able to keep it super funny with all of this other extra stuff around.
Yeah.
I almost look at it like, with stand-up, you can like shotgun blast a little more. It's like, I'll try this thing and there's a 10% chance it works, and if it doesn't, I don't care. Whereas like sketch comedians, I feel like if it's a really good sketch group, those are like sharpshooters. Do you know what I mean? Like, they are experienced, they know what their voice is exactly, and they're like, I'm executing on that voice every time I do a sketch. Whereas like with stand-up, you can kind of find your voice a little bit. You can try on a joke for one night and be like, I don't like how that feels, or I don't, that didn't feel like me. So I'll, kind of guide it to the stuff that I like a little bit more. It seems like sketch it's easier to start, but it's harder to be great at, in a way. At least for indie stuff. Kind of like used to play trombone a lot. And like trombone, like I can teach someone to play trombone in 3 weeks if they already know how to play another instrument. It's a low startup cost, but to be like amazing at trombone, it's like harder than being amazing at like trumpet, but trumpet is so much harder to even make a sound on. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a trade-off.
It's
always some kind of trade-off.
Yeah. For me, stand-up, it also forces you to like, get out of the house and go interact with people and be in a new scary place where you don't know anyone and they probably don't like you by default and you have to like earn it, kind of thing. Whereas like, I think with, I've grown up with like video games and TV and all this stuff that like puts me in the house. Like I'm, wasn't like a huge athlete or anything like that. So it's like, I think my comfort zone is to be like, I'll just stay here and like write something or edit something for, a week. Whereas like stand up, I feel like it's kind of like, for me anyway, it's like eating your vegetables. It's like, get out there and go, do something that you're afraid of.
What was your first time like? Where was it, and how did you feel?
My first time was actually about 10 years ago in Madison.
Okay.
Where I went to school in Madison. So first time doing stand-up was there, and it was actually okay. But I was very like I'm an engineer, and I was like very into engineering back then. And I kind of like realized how much work it would take, and I just couldn't keep up with it with like design projects and things like that. So then just kind of didn't do anything for about maybe 5 years or so. And then I was living up in San Francisco, and I was starting to get back into comedy. And when I started stand up there, it was very not good. It was like, it was much scarier than the when I was doing it in Madison. And like, not that there's anything wrong with this, but I think it was kind of like a tough kind of blue collar room. And I, no problem with those places, but like, I don't think that was like the most welcoming crowd for me to start out. But also I think I was doing a ton of stuff that I now see is wrong. I would write out like a page and have every word memorized, single spaced kind of thing. And a lot of it wasn't like centered around like jokes or punchlines. It was like, I'm just gonna like weird, like it was like weird prose. Like, I'll say this thing in this like kind of flowery way and this will work. I think I was just kind of in the deep end. And then I I think sketch actually really helped me kind of like figure out what like a joke is. Like you can see it on a page. You can be like, okay, that's like the the funny part. This is like the repeatable part of it. This is, we're heightening now. So it's like that kind of thing. I think it definitely helped me in stand-up, where it's like, okay, this is what I think the punchline is going to be, and this is the premise, and this is the idea, as opposed to just when I was doing it in San Francisco, which is like, just try to be weird on stage, and hope people like it. Yeah. No, then I didn't really do stand-up for another 3 years, because then I came down here to do sketch, and then now, or I guess my first time like out here, it was actually okay. It was I did it at the Fourth Wall in North Hollywood, and it was I just like wrote down every little funny thing that I could think of in like 3 months or so, and then just like did like a rapid fire kind of joke thing where it's just like, if they don't like that, they'll like this. If they don't like that, they'll like this kind of thing. Just like, I don't know. I'd read different books by stand-up comedians and things like that, and some of them, I forget who was talking about it, but it's just like, if you're worried about something, just take up the smallest kernel of the joke that you can, try it out, and, then get out. Don't write 4 pages on it, like just when you're trying it. Do like a couple sentences, then get out. So, it was actually, I think, really nice. I guess I would call it my official start of stand-up about a year ago. When did you start stand-up?
I started in college as well, but I felt pulled to it when I moved out to LA. I think there was like maybe a couple months there when I was working at Warner Brothers and I was just kind of doing more production stuff, and then I just fell right back into stand-up. I think I got very wrapped up in the open mic scene for a while.
In a good way?
In an okay way. I would say I needed probably some separation from it.
Okay. Some healthy separation?
Yeah. Because it's I don't know. You have to be focused when you start stand-up, know, in the open mic scene.
Yep.
You have to be very focused because there's a pecking order, and and you're just like, you're always questioning what is this pecking order, and how am I even judging myself based on any of it?
I'm curious though, like, do you feel like you have like a handle on that now? Like, do you feel like you can see the map of what the stand-up scene is? Okay, still no. Okay.
no, yeah. I think I actually kind of separated myself from it. I love running my show. And I'm probably coming from the opposite. Like, I feel like now everything is kind of becoming stand-up in a way, in the sense that, like, everyone's becoming a personality, basically. And there's so many venues to kind of be a personality now, in the same way that stand-up used to kind of a stranglehold on that, because it's almost like a filibuster kind of thing, where you're, like, talking to Mike.
Yeah.
And, you can kind of say whatever you want, and especially if no one knows who you are. And, and you can kind of just, advance your persona and your personality and build this, like, comedic persona.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of avenues for that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's, especially, like, characters and stuff like that as well. So I don't know, I'm kind of like, I felt in a way like maybe I limited myself too early with just stand-up, especially now that I'm getting back into acting and stuff like that, and kind of realizing that, well, maybe LA has been rubbing off on me, but it's like, it feels like you got to do everything all at once. You got to get good at everything all at once.
Yeah.
And definitely kind of zigzag, especially now when there's so much, everything's so saturated. It feels like you got to build up a lot of different kinds of skill sets.
Right.
And stand-up alone, like, that is a skill set. Doesn't necessarily lend itself to acting. Acting is a very different thing.
Right.
But character comedians, I think, are more actors in a way. Character comedians are more like improvisers, more like actors, more... It's, so I don't know if I kind of like that skill set. I feel like that challenges me more right now. Yeah. Which I kind of like that more. But I don't know. I always will have, even my one-liner, like, when I have one-liners, I feel like I have a persona and I need to even delve deeper. And it seems like even, like, stand-up comedians are kind of working on one character, which is the character of themselves. Like, even if they're like, I just speak the truth, and I'm just Bill Burr, I'm just this. It's like, no, you're working on, like, one character. Like, you're really getting deep down, drilling deep down into who that person is.
Right, on stage,
Yeah, or on stage, or when they're in front of a microphone even. Like, Bill Burr, I think, especially shows that it's just, like, he's gotten so comfortable and confident in stand-up because it's just him and a mic. Even if there's audience or no audience, or,
it's always a little bit, it's always a version of yourself up there. And I think it just comes down to taste of with whether how close you want it to be to your actual self.
How do you feel about that right now?
Let's see. Well, first of all, I really love character-y jokes. Like, I love, like, leaning into an act out. Those are always the most fun for me. But I am trying to make it close to who I am, generally. But at the same time, I feel like, I'm preparing things off stage and bringing it on stage, and that's what I do. I do, like, what I've come to do. I'm not necessarily, like, not normally, like, freewheeling on stage. That's something that, like, I want to, like, get more into, where it's just, like, it is just you, but, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't, what am I trying to say? Like, I don't think the way my brain normally thinks is funny. Like, I think sometimes, like, I am in certain settings, you know what I mean? And then whenever that happens, I, like, capture that kind of thing and try to reproduce it on stage. But, like, if I were to just be myself on stage, it would probably just be, like, somebody who's, like, very right-brained, kind of, like, just thinking logically, but, like, not necessarily funny kind of thing, or scared. So it's like, yeah. I think that's the ultimate goal, though. I guess it comes down to comfort level, too, because it's like, when you're with your friends, you're silly and, feel safe and can just say whatever the hell you want. And then it's over the years of getting on stage that eventually you can kind of feel that way around complete strangers.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I look at, like, comedians who are really successful, like, who are getting better, like, all the time. You, especially with other comedians, proving yourself to other comedians, that's what you think you spend most of your time doing, is making people care about you being here and your jokes and why you're funny.
Yeah.
And I see people who are, like, really good at that, and it's like they become, like, almost attack dogs, in a way. Like, I think my favorites do. I think if I pursued stand-up more, then I would become, like, more of an attack dog. Like, because
What do you mean attack dog?
In the sense that, like, if something's not working,
yes,
I lash out in a funny way. Because, like, I feel like that's a lot of comics, though, too. Because it's, like, a lot of times your stuff doesn't work, and eventually you have to get to a point where you can, like, lash out and be funny.
Right.
And like, recoil from... Because
most saves.
Yeah, you have to save yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, a lot of times the funniest moment is when something doesn't work and you acknowledge that. That's a lot of times people's biggest laugh. Like, even when they're professionals sometimes, and it's just because it's that acknowledgement. It's like, yeah, we all know what's going on right here. And the comedian is in on it. The comedian knows too.
Right.
It's that connection.
Yeah.
So I think, it's like, I've seen comedians who are, like, really, like, going into the improv every night, or every, they're really going to the mics and they're really doing it, and that's all they're doing. And it feels like that's what it kind of breeds, is it breeds this kind of almost attack dog kind of, like, thing where it's like you're building up your defenses against.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you're never, like, you can always bomb, but, like, your bombs are better. Yeah. So it's just you're kind of, like, moving the goalposts. Your lows aren't quite as low, and your highs are higher.
Yeah, your bombs are controlled. Like, you're able to gain back control in a volatile situation as quick as possible.
Right.
Kind of
Yeah. That's something I want to focus on with this next year, is because normally I really like the writing parts. That's when I feel, like, most comfortable, when I'm writing a lot. So I kind of just focus on just that portion, though, and I'm like, this is what I wrote. I'm gonna go, like, get ready. I'm gonna perform that, and then I'm gonna write something else. But it's like, I do want to start, like, mapping it out a little bit. So it's like, well, if that's not working, go here, or go here, or where it's like it's not just that one piece of material that you prepared for that set. You have your entire repertoire, behind you and locked and loaded, ready to go. Yeah. And different, like, audibles for different situations, kind of thing. Like, I want to do more bar mics, and I think that's, one of the situations is, like, I could be wrong, but, like, my interpretation is, like, you kind of have to machine gun them with jokes that work and, like, make them fucking look at you and pay attention. Yeah. Whereas, like, if you're even at a mic where everyone is, like, facing towards you, that's kind of, you have a little bit more leeway to be like, come along on this weird journey with me. Right. Whereas like in a bar, you're like, I do jokes, joke, 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 and then they're like, okay, I guess we'll listen to you now. So that's it's something that I want to get to, but that's just one example of like like an audible that you would do. You're like, oh, it's this kind of room.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna do this for 2 minutes and then work on what I wanted to work on.
Right, which I think that's a good mentality to have, because I think it's easy to fall into one or the other, where you're just like coming up pre-preparing bits and just like, oh, this works or it doesn't. And then there's the, like, you know, I feel like I fell into that. Like, I'm the opposite of you. I feel like I was freewheeling. Like, I would just get up and I would start freewheeling, and I would just totally not work on any of my material.
Right.
And I feel like those are two different sides of the same coin in a way, because it's like, I think they're both like, you have to marry the two in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels like you have to prepare everything and then you throw it out the window as soon as you get on stage.
Yeah.
And then it comes back in. It seeps back in. And that to me is like a polished performer. Is you get up, you have to address the moment of whatever's happening. And the bar definitely is a good place to test that out, because obviously it's a usually shit show at a bar show. What was like the first moment that you thought I could be funny, or you got a laugh, and it was something that made you really like addicted to it, or addicted to that reaction, or
let's see, like just like I think probably in like, I've always tried to make people laugh, and it was just like maybe until 6th grade, like it was just annoying. Like I think like my friends liked it, but like to other people, like my brother, I think my brother did not think that I was funny until I was like a freshman in high school. And then like, we weren't really friends until then. And he was like, okay, I guess you're all right. Like, you can make me laugh, kind of thing. But yeah, he's been a huge, encourager. He's been a huge encouragement to me, for doing stand-up. But in terms of like, what was the first addiction? Like, I don't know, like, I think when I saw Ace Ventura, like, I started like talking with my ass in the theater, when I was like 7 or 8 or something like that. So I don't know, it's probably from before I can even remember.
No, I felt the same attraction to Jim Carrey. That's funny you say that. I think he got a whole generation of comedians to want to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he was having so much fun. For me, it was The Mask, because The Mask was like that. It's such a deep movie, even as a grown-up, and I've like looked at it, and it's such a deep movie because it's about your dark side and your light side, and it's a very spiritual movie if you think about it, because it's like, it's similar to The Nutty Professor, but I think it breaks it down in a way where it's like one person has two heads about them, or they have dual. It's a good showcase for an actor, for any actor, especially for like a big character actor, because it's able to like show, like, you know, the insecure person who I felt like that was probably me, and as a kid even I related so much with
really?
I'm sorry, because I'm I think at my heart I'm a sweet, kind person, naive.
Yeah.
You know, so I related with that Jim Carrey, like everyone walks on him. Like, even at 7, which is so weird to relate with a 30-year-old man when you're 7 years
old.
Like,
you and me, buddy.
You and me. But it's so, But then, you know, the idea of the wild man was like, okay, that's what stand-up is to me. Or that's what characters are. It's that idea you can be like so apologetic and just be like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, oh, and not yourself and fake. And then it's like, yeah, well, this maybe isn't me either, but wow.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like that idea of just, and the dark side too. I don't know, like, it's a spiritual thing where it's like your dark side is basically, I guess, like the opposite. It's like maybe the Larry David thing, like the opposite of who you are. You know, like the episode of The Opposite is so lovely because it's like, where he's like, oh, I have to be the complete opposite of everything I've ever been.
Right.
You know, and it's so lovely because it's like, we can imagine the opposite of what we are.
Yeah.
And that to me is just complete freedom in a way.
Right.
Like, because I'm just like, there's so many things I don't like about myself, but then I can be the opposite of all those things.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a powerful thing to me. And for some reason, I associate when I do my best with stand-up, I think when I'm almost being the opposite of my turned off character.
Right.
You know, just turned off in real life, just
yeah.
doing a podcast, you know,
yeah.
being, you know, talking shop, you know, not trying to be funny at all, or not trying to make jokes, you know. It's a stark contrast, like you were saying, where it's like, it almost feels like it's not a natural thing to be funny.
Yeah.
And it has to be almost like concocted. And
Yeah. Yeah. I think it works a muscle too, like that you don't normally get to work. Yeah. Whereas, like, I don't know, I think when I started comedy, like, I suddenly realized, hey, maybe I'm like less annoying at work now because I'm not like trying to make them laugh. You know what I mean? Where it's like I have like this outlet where I can go and do it. But yeah, did you ever feel that or anything?
Yeah, I was definitely always trying to make people laugh and stuff. Yeah, I you know, and it definitely did like get annoying to a certain degree. Oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be annoyed by it, but I'm sure everyone else was.
Right.
I didn't need their feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they laugh, like, people would laugh, and, I mean, I don't know, it's a weird thing. I feel like, in a way, this has been the only thing I've ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing I've kind of had to do, which is kind of a strange phenomenon.
What do you mean, like, you don't have a choice in the matter?
No, I just, I do have a choice, but I've never had to do other things to just get my financial situation.
Got it. Yeah.
So sometimes I haven't treated this with the respect or like urgency that this, or professionalism that this requires.
It's so easy to like, you know, slack off in different ways.
Yeah, it is with stand-up, because it's like, and that's what I see. I see people, like, no matter where you go, most people are never going to leave their comfort zone, you know, and never going to try new stuff, really. And that's why they're probably not going to make it, I think, in a weird way.
Yeah.
You know, and who am I to say that? I mean, I'm probably...
No, dude, I mean, yeah.
It's like everyone is in that same boat of, like, you know, it's like you got to try different things all the time, I think. And you have to, what is it, the Steve Martin thing? You have to not be afraid of bombing anymore,
right?
In a way, because you gotta, as your character, you gotta be able to take risks, not risks that you wouldn't stand by, but like
you have to do it enough so that it's like you can, like, if you bomb, that doesn't ruin your week. Also, like, let's say you've gained the respect of like certain people in the crowd, and then you're like, but you're only performing once a week, and you try something, and then like they see you like fuck up, you're like, well, that probably, you know, they like think less of me now. But it's like, if they're like, oh, he's gonna be here like every night or every other night, you know, he was just like trying something that one night. It's also like, I feel like, you know, it's for yourself that you're putting that much in, but it's also for the other people around you to like see that like you're out there and working hard and you know, doing enough of this. So it's like they almost like give, like, whether it's real or not, like, I feel like when I'm doing a lot of stand-up, the people in the crowd have kind of given me permission to like fuck around a little bit more and try something, because it's like, well, at least he's working hard, you know what I mean? Right. It's like, you know, if you were to see some guy where it's like, this guy barely ever performs and that was fucking awful, like, what is he doing? Whereas, like, you know, if you're doing it all the time, you know, I'm like, yeah, whatever, he gets a pass, right?
Yeah, I think people feel that too, because it's like an authority thing, as well. I think, like, when you get in a room with like comedy and stuff.
For sure, yeah. Like, people, yeah, they're like, I feel like, you know, if it's a room full of strangers, that's a room full of strangers. But if you know some of the people there, like, you know, whether certain people in the room respect you, I feel like matters quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you just have to, like, you know, give it your all to you know, kind of like keep their respect and you know, show that you're working hard and show that you have like a right to waste their time with a shitty character.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like, it's there's a lot there. There's a lot of like heaviness there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no.
How many times? How often have you been doing it?
I have been doing it like probably 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay.
I want to up that. Honestly, like, I feel like it's not enough right now, because it's like, I'll only, if I'm going to a lot of different rooms, then I'm only seeing certain people like, once every, 2 weeks or something like that, or 3 weeks, or more. And, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like actually trying to figure this out right now in terms of like what I should focus on. Because like I've been mainly for this year going to, those sign up mics where you can sign up online, because they're very efficient, like you get in, get out kind of thing. But I've been spending like a lot of time at those places. But at the same time, like I feel like I made some progress there because like, people will see me enough and be like, oh, like, would you like to be on this show? Which is always amazing. And so it's like I'm making progress with those certain people, but at the same time, maybe I'm like depriving myself of like just general experience of getting all sorts of different rooms. And right now I'm thinking like if I knew like exactly what my voice was, and I've been doing this for like maybe like 5 years or something like that, I would just want to focus on like what is going to get me on shows, what is going to like, I mean, not like a getting paid big break, but what will be your break into, keep pressing the same points, keep succeeding at the same thing, and people will be like, that guy can do this, you get on the show kind of thing. But like right now it's like I still feel like I'm figuring that out, and I'm still experimenting, and I want to like keep that element of surprise and experimentation. So I think right now I'm going to be focusing more on all sorts of different rooms, just in like treating this as like a learning phase. And it's like if I don't get on like this show that I've wanted to be on forever, like I'm not going to beat myself up about it, because it's like I'm still trying to figure shit out. Is that like, do you try to do like a ton of different rooms, or do you focus on certain rooms?
I mean, I think
but you're running your show, you're also doing the podcast and doing acting, so it's like you're doing a lot of other things as well.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of other things, and I'm trying to find like, but I think how you're going about it is the right way. I think to get better a lot faster is to go to a ton of different rooms, because it's like you just hang out on the east side and it's so easy. I can just go to Lyric Hyperion, I can go to these places around here, and I don't know if I'm necessarily I'm getting better, but it's you start to just try and please like certain audiences.
Yep.
Like out over here, it's very like privileged, like coffee shop hipster.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that audience in a way because that's who I am.
Yeah, it's like what's closer to you.
Yeah, it's what's closer to me. But I think especially going to like, I've heard of people going to like places like Compton and like.
Oh really?
Yeah, like inner city LA, like mics and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that would make you that would like see yourself in a totally different way.
For sure, yeah.
Because I think you need to be, if you're doing stand-up, I think you need to be like fish out of water. Yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it. I haven't been doing that, but I think that I fell into my routine. I think I'm getting out of my routine in a lot of different ways, but in stand-up, I think I haven't been doing it enough, so I
for sure
go back to this small little routine I have.
Yeah. Keep you sharp, keep you out there.
Keep me out there, but yeah, I mean, going to places like the Chatterbox, going to places like, but I think going to places that are off the map and going to different rooms and driving for gigs, I think that's very valuable. It sucks, to drive 15, 20, 25 miles, to get a different crowd. But I think, especially if it's not paid, but I think it is worth it to do those shows and to do those mics.
Yeah. And also I feel like it, comedy aside, it kind of gives you like a better view, like a bird's eye view of what the stand-up ecosystem is in your city. We were talking about that, like there's all these like structures and hierarchies that are invisible to everybody unless you've been around it a lot and been to a lot of different rooms. At least that's what I'm guessing. I'm hoping that a year from now I will have a better view of it, because that's another weird thing about stand-up that is that's been new for me, is that like there really is nothing, there's no part of it that's forcing you guys to work together, and I feel like that's what creates strong bonds. and like friendships and things like that. It's it's like like in any other social situation, it's like I'll just stick around and like show them that I work really hard, and then they'll be like, he's all right, and then like kind of like that's my like way in, maybe like throw a joke or something like that. But it's like with stand up, you guys are just like ships in the night, you know what I mean, just crossing each other's paths, and it's like unless you get on a show or collaborate with somebody in some way, I think it's like you're still like making social progress, but it just takes a long time, because it's like, let's say it takes 10 hours to be more than an acquaintance with somebody, right? It takes, if you're not going to the same rooms, it takes a long time to work up that 10 hours of contact, right? Before you're even like, I want to know how this guy's day was, right? So yeah, that's been interesting for me. Like, I mean, it's totally fine. I don't think like I don't want this to be taken weird, like, oh, these other stand-ups are so weird to me. I think it's just like the nature of the game, and it's just weird. It's just like I'm not used to doing something, like working this hard at something for a year and like not knowing anyone, basically, still. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a certain LA aspect of that too. I think there's that LA aspect of, oh, this isn't a community.
Right.
Are you fucking kidding me? Like, this isn't a community. And like I feel like they're just, like you said, the ships in the night, and there's hope. There's flashes of hope.
Yeah.
Like someone will just be very nice and be like, "Oh, I like that joke you had," or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's totally unlike Chicago, or I think a lot of scenes. I mean, I never came up in a smaller scene.
Same, yeah.
Where all the comedians are like, "Oh, wow, you really want to do this for real? Like, let's help each other out and let's blah blah blah."
Yeah.
Versus here, I think it's all very indirect.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of directness out here. And directness itself comes off very gross.
Exactly,
because the people who feel like they can be direct are usually very gross. Like, in my opinion out here, like, they're just like, "Hey, how you doing?" It's very, like, it just comes off, I think, because you're just used to just a very indirect city. And I don't know if New York is any different. I never really did stand up in New York. But, I'm starting to feel like, show business in general is starting to become a more indirect, and maybe it's always kind of been a little more indirect, like when you're really serious about show business, it's always been kind of an indirect kind of thing. But now that it's so, like...
It's very siloed.
It's, so siloed and so just hyper competitive. It feels like almost like a little bit of like Wall Street. It's like, oh, you don't want to know what I know. Like, it's like what we're doing is way more important than it is. It's like, you don't want to know who I know. You don't want to know what's about to drop.
Right.
The new ep of this podcast.
Right.
It's like, okay.
That's the other thing is that, it's all people like trying to make it, trying to like talk a bigger game than they have, or it's also like wildly different goals and experience levels and financial levels. It's just like it's such a like a melting pot of different experiences and different, like, people are on, I don't know, they're all on the same track but in wildly different places. So it's a lot of variables.
It's a lot of variables, and it feels like what was the first joke that you liked that you told?
The first joke that I liked that I told, let's see, like, I don't know if I can, like, in stand-up?
In stand-up, yeah, like, or was it like more of an energy thing you were saying?
Yeah. I think like I have like two bits I think that stand out in my mind. One is about like a fake extended edition of Jaws, where he just talks about how to measure a shark, like like that very intense speech he gives, and I was like talking about the extended edition and just how like he's just going into the different. You could measure it with a tape measure. You could like stand next to it and kind of eyeball it, and it just goes on forever. So there's that, and then
is it one of those bits that kind of like is not funny for a while and then it gets funnier again.
It's
like funny at first and then...
it's not there's like elements of that, but I think there are enough beats in it that like some people are enjoying it the whole time. It's not one of those things that's pointless if I stop early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But there is some of that in there. But it's also like very character-y because like I love doing you know, that voice and kind of like you know, just being in that voice for like 3 or 4 minutes kind of thing, talking very intensely about shit that doesn't matter. So that's super fun. Then had a joke about the It movies. In the It book, like they have a child orgy scene in it. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like exploring like how the fuck did that get in the book in the first place, like let alone not being in the movie, but just kind of viewing Stephen King just like coked up and out of his mind in the 80s, being shouting at his publisher to fucking publish it. So I think those are two, and what I'm doing now is not doing justice to either one of them. But yeah, both of them are very, you can kind of like really lean into the character-y part of it. And I love that kind of thing. I feel like they both heighten well. But I don't know. It's definitely a skill that I'm working on, because like right now, I don't know about how you feel about this, but like for me, like when I'm doing jokes, I'm very rarely like sitting down and being like, I want to write a joke about this thing that's happening in the world. It's usually like I'm riffing with somebody, a friend or my girlfriend or something like that, and it's like those voices or whatever will just kind of like come out of me before I'm even thinking about it. It's more kind of like a fast twitch muscle, and then it's like you know, it works there with your friends because you're with your friends, but it's like, okay, is there something actually there? Can I expand that? Can I you know, make that into an actual stand-up bit?
Yeah, no, I think that's important. I think it's important to have people you're constantly riffing with.
Yeah.
Like Mimi is that kind of for me right now.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know, and we talked about yesterday, we saw this fish with just a huge tumor on his eye, and it was just like bubbling, like and he just couldn't catch any of the fish food. We were throwing fish food, and he just was like missing it. Yeah. And it was just like, it was so sad and so hilarious at the same time, and it was like there like people treat cancer and they're just like, oh my god, it's cancer. But like just seeing this fish with this huge fucking tumor, you're just like, you know, why don't you just name your fucking tumor? Right. Like, why don't you just put googly eyes on it? Like, take it to the market and be like, here's me and my tumor. He's gonna kill me. You know, like
holding it in a, what do they call it? The knapsack thing.
Yeah.
A tote. Yeah.
Holding. Yeah, exactly. Holding farmer's market tote. It's my organic tumor. You know?
Right. So like that's kind of where I am right now, where it's like I kind of like. Those two jokes or like bits stood out in my mind because it's like those I think are like they do have like a good joke structure, but almost unintentionally. You know what I mean? Where it's like I can like recognize it when I have it. I think it's still a skill that I'm working on, where it's like I am going to be in control of every single thing that I'm writing, and I don't even know if that is the way it will ever be. But it's like I know that plenty of comedians are like that. But like right now it's more just like riffing with people, and if something you know, if you say a funny riff, just like capturing that, then seeing if you can expand on it, write a little bit more about it, heighten it, and go from there. So like I don't feel like very like, you know, it's like I feel like I you know, it's like you have like a powerful like laser beam, but like it's very hard to aim, you know what I mean, at least at this stage. So trying to aim it.
Trying to aim your laser.
Yeah, that's the fucking lamest analogy.
No, I fucking love it. I love it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Those. Yeah. So I guess full circle back to like things I want to work on this year is like, you know, like getting used to a lot of different rooms, the Audible thing, and then trying to figure out if I can do more like directed like work, where it's like this has been bothering me a lot, because like I don't know about you, but like when I do that, when I sit down and I'm like, I'm gonna like write jokes about like Land Rovers because Land Rovers have been bugging me or something like that, it's like I'm thinking about it with like the logical side of my brain, which is not necessarily like the funny part of it, I think. So it's like they all make sense, just none of them are like, they don't like tickle you. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, I think the best, like when I do a joke that I'm really proud to tell, it kind of like, it makes you like laugh like in your gut a little bit. Whereas like that's hard to do if I'm just like sitting down with a sterile piece of paper and like writing it out and thinking about the joke structure and stuff like that. The other thing that I think it helped me do is like, so I guess what I've been talking about is I always feel like I have to come at like my comedy from an indirect way, where it's like you're kind of like backing into it, and then but as opposed to like a direct, I'm writing about this kind of thing. But I do feel like the like studying like stuff at UCB, sketch stuff, or like reading stand-up books or whatever, like that, it doesn't necessarily help me write in that way, but it lets me know, like I can recognize when something I've come up with in an indirect way follows the structure. Even though if you write 100 Jay Leno jokes and they all fucking suck, like in a way that exercise I feel like has helped me, because I recognize it when I have it. Let's say like I'll be riffing with somebody and like say something that we both think is funny. It kind of like knowing that structure lets me know of like, is this just a thing that just worked between us because we're both in this like, like a very specific situation, or is this like something that's more general that can be translated? So it's like I feel like there are things where it's like you got that juice, but it's not necessarily like applicable to stand up. It's like because I can see that it breaks so many of the rules of like what the structure should be, that I'm like, I probably shouldn't waste my time trying to write that out. Knowing the structure kind of lets me know like, is this worth investing some time into and fleshing out, or is this just a little flash in the pan, one is done, sort of just between friends sort of riff?
It's sometimes hard to tell that, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's super hard to tell that. Oh my God. Yeah. It's so scary. So scary. Yeah.
I don't think you can do this and not be in a good place emotionally.
I think it's a myth that like you have to be really fucked up, or you have to be $30 away from no money in your bank account kind of thing. But like, like when I'm not in a good place emotionally, I just get sad and don't contact anyone or do anything.
Yeah, right? You like shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like you keep doing it, and then eventually you're gonna fucking kill someone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just not a good recipe. Just like.
And then like with the financial stuff too, like whenever I'm financially in dire straits, I just get scared.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's not like.
I think maybe what it is like I think you have to live a life that is similar to what you grew up with. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Right? Because like I don't know, if you're already dealing with this thing that's super scary, everything else should be very familiar. You know what I mean? So you can just like focus on the one thing being crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like I think. Like if you like grew up in a different situation than I did, you're like what might be okay to you is different, right? One exception. So like about like 3 years ago or so, I like came down to Los Angeles to do stand up and like quit my like engineering job, cold turkey, and like just came down here with some saving on the edge. That maybe that does create the best stand up comedians, but like I think probably the reason that myth came about for me is how like the first kind of big famous stand-up comedians came about, because those people had to be crazy about stand-up, like just fucking insane.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the first cast of like SNL, like those type of people, where it's just like to break through at that time, you had to be like one track mind, like 100%. This is my only shot at like living a life. You know what I mean? Whereas like now I think like for better or for worse, I think it's more siloed. I think you can like, I don't think the choice has to be comedy or death. Whereas,
are you fucking kidding me? It's one thing I know: comedy or death.
Yeah. And I mean that in a literal sense.
Yeah,
it's like I think if like those people didn't break through back in the 60s or 70s or whatever, they fucking just like die homeless on the street kind of thing, because that's literally all they put in their basket forever. But it's like now I think it's like,
a lot of it's like staying power too. You know what I mean? Like you just like find your audience, you keep delivering to that audience for as long as possible, because so many people, I think, just by attrition drop out. But I think on a whole, it's probably making more healthy comedians.
Probably,
right?
Yeah, I would say, and more diversity in terms of perspectives.
Yeah, like the people that are big now, like like Tom Segura, like he doesn't seem like an insane person.
No,
you know what I mean?
No,
He's
not
like
at
seems
all.
like he like probably has like it seems like he has like a happy marriage. He's got does he have a kid already or?
Yeah,
where it's like they seem like normal in a way. You know what I mean? Like it seems like if they didn't have stand up, their life wouldn't completely fucking suck, because they would probably just be successful at something else. Whereas back in the day, it was just like it was just a crazy person machine. That was the only way that anyone broke through.
It does feel like it's a lot more business minded people are in stand up now, because it's like if you run podcasts, it's like what's your demographic, what is your business plan, anything you do, it's like what's your niche, like who are you,
right,
what's your brand.
I feel like I'm still trying to like figure that out. Do you feel like you're and I mean like people talk about like finding your voice all the time. It's like I think there are some things where it's like I've said jokes on stage and it's like I recognize like, oh, this is kind of like I like that more than like I think something I'm recognizing recently is like I don't necessarily like rant jokes, like in terms of me. I love hearing them. I love fucking rant jokes, but like in terms of me telling them, like I can do it and it's like competent, like it'll get like laughs, but it's like at the end of it I'm like, that didn't really feel like me, because like when I'm with my friends I'm not like, and this is the next thing that bugs me about LA traffic or where it's like that's not normally how I talk to people, but if I'm with my friends and stuff like that, it's like I am like, I don't know, like being silly and doing voices and especially when I drink, yeah, like that, it's like. So I feel like I'm still figuring that out kind of thing. Do you feel like you're still working on that heavily, or it's like, are there ever jokes that you're telling these days when you get off stage and you're like, that didn't feel like even if it worked, you're like, that didn't feel like me. I'm going to try to stay away from those types of jokes for me because it's not as fun to do.
I don't know if I actually have felt like that, because I think I'm more freewheeling, so stuff will just come out of my mouth.
Got it. So it is more like, you all the time.
Yeah, I think that is, but I'm trying to, it's a different thing I'm struggling with. I'm not struggling with individual jokes. I'm struggling with kind of like how would this have gone differently in a way. It's like the whole thing is almost like the performance, and it's like the jokes themselves to me sometimes like naturally take a back seat in a weird way.
Right, yeah. I think, from like watching you, it seems more like it's a performance as a whole.
Yeah. I think it's all one piece with me. I'm very different from a lot of people with that. I think it's also one of the reasons why I never get booked. Maybe I do need to take stand-up more seriously, but I do feel like I'm always working on it, even when I'm not. In a weird way. Like
I mean, it seems like you're working on like the show and stuff like that, and you're just like, well, I'm just gonna keep hitting this, and eventually all this other meaningless shit will fall away.
I mean, that's kind of how I feel, and I do need to become like learning from you. Like I think you're hilarious.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. But you're very controlled, and I admire that about you. You're very like like you said, you're very right brained. You're very like controlled.
Yeah.
Like which I think is really cool, because it's like you're always an authority, like you're always like funny, you know what I mean? Like you're always like people look at you and they're like, oh fuck yeah,
appreciate
Konrath.
Oh, thank you very much.
You know, yeah, and me, I'm like all over the place, and for better or for worse, it's like some nights people are like, oh dude, I love that thing, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen, and then other nights people don't look me in the eye. Right. Like there's very little in between, because
it seems it's like more like polarizing.
Yes.
And it's like either like people are fucking for you 1,000%,
right,
or they're like, what was that?
What the fuck? Who the fuck is this person?
Yeah.
But people aren't still bold enough to heckle me, which I think is because I haven't been doing it enough. Because as comedians, we're in our own world, but at the same time, you are building. Every show builds a narrative.
Yeah.
You know, and it builds. Each person builds on top of the other person. So if you're a performer on the show, it does help to like know what the other comedians are talking about and inserting yourself into that general narrative, because it immediately grounds the audience.
Right. Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, this is a continuation of what I've seen in a way.
It's a conversation.
It's a conversation, exactly.
Right? Yeah, you're trying to you have to acknowledge the space, acknowledge the room kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it's weird. It's just a subconscious thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's weird. Or you can kind of pull, which I would love to do, which is just kind of like an anti-acknowledgement of everything to a point where you're addressing it but you're not. Like a lot of successful characters who are like kind of, again, iconoclast. Where you're just like, oh wow, well that guy sucked. Like fuck. Like almost like to a point to be able to talk shit and to have everyone know you're joking.
You should do that for Yankers sometime.
I think so.
Right? Just be like, hey, comedians,
because I feel like I sometimes hold myself back from doing that. Yeah. And it's like, because I'm afraid, but it's like, no, I think I'm a nice enough person that I can do that kind of, that almost Neil Hamburger kind of thing, or that, was it Andy Kaufman's asshole lounge singer or whatever?
Yeah.
Tony Clifton.
Yeah.
I can kind of do that.
Yeah.
I think I kind of have that in me too. And it's fun because I'm a kind person.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's like,
because I'm like, oh wow, like,
yeah, I feel like I've seen that at Yanker. I'm like, oh, like he's like there is something right there, but he's like just announcing like the other comedian. I'm like, he fucking like he's thinking about something right now. I can see it. I can see wanting to do it. You should fucking just do it.
I'm just gonna start doing it.
Yeah, that with whatever comedians are on Yanker next, just be like, guys, I'm gonna be a dick to you.
Yeah.
So just
cool.
Roll with it.
Well, I'm glad we figured this out.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think that'll be fun to try that out. Do you have anything to plug?
Let's see. I am on Twitter and Instagram.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Michael_Konrath. That's Konrath with a K. Konrath. And I think my Twitter is just Michael Konrath.
Underscore. That's
at
brave.
Michael Konrath. Yeah, with a K. Yeah, underscore. I made it a long time ago. I don't know, but before I knew anything about branding. Now I laugh. I look back and I laugh.
You were like a normal person.
Exactly. Some fucking pathetic normal piece of shit. Yeah. Not like now. Yeah, just Twitter and Instagram. Oh, I have a YouTube, Michael Konrath, I think. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, dude.
Twitter, my Facebook, and Instagram at the Yankcast. Stay tuned for more updates.